feints the jab to bring the guard to the center so he can come around with a damn. That left hook is nasty. So he can counter. That's a big gap in skill that he's kind of demonstrating from time to time. You see flashes of his more skillful capabilities versus the kind of stereotypical Mike that he often gets labeled as, especially towards the end of his career. Action Berbick is kind of standing up, and then he's kind of not. All right, let's talk science. But before we do, hit that like button for me. Take some time to do that. Also subscribe. Put down in the comments what performance for Mike you think demonstrated the most skill in your eyes. Now let's talk. And I was recommended this fight because I put it out in the community, wanted to see what fight I could analyze. And as I was watching this, I'm like, this definitely isn't the most skillful Mike Tyson performance, but it is good for stylistic analysis, which we love to do on this channel. And we're gonna kind of look at some pieces of what he's doing here that kind of allude to what he's best at, and what pieces are just him brawling it out. Like, for example, immediately, like a good distinction between his skill set and him just swinging. Immediately there's like a probing jab, more of like a range finder and a feint from Berbick, and then he throws out another one. These aren't really damaging shots, right? But he's trying to find the range and he's trying to feint out. And he did that 2 times. On the third one, Mike is already timing it, looking to come over top with the right hand. The counter punching from Mike is underrated, and I think that's low key where he's strongest. Mike is going to use a jab to start closing the distance. Kind of, he doubles up a little bit, throws the second one to the body. But the problem with Berbick is that he's fighting in kind of a Muhammad Ali style. A lot of people in the 80s were kind of fighting with that style, with that lead hand down, flicking the jab up. The problem is you got to have Muhammad Ali reflexes, because if your arm is constantly down, you're going to have someone trying to come over top, like what Mike is doing right there. Tries to follow up with the left hook. Well, doesn't try. He does follow up with the left hook, and he gets pushed off. Now, Berbick is so stiff early on, and we always try and lean into a little bit of the psychological aspect of fighting, although it's hard to say a lot of times what's going through someone's mind. But we all know that Mike Tyson psychologically would throw people off of their games just because of how intimidating he was. And we're going to talk about athlete aura in the future, the kind of aura surrounding a fighter and what it does and how it influences outcomes. But Berbick is so stiff early on, he's kind of slow, and he's just trying to do a feel out process. That's what most people do in the first round. Mike Tyson is not most people, obviously, and earlier we saw him slip. I think he slipped to the outside of the jab so he could come with the overhand over that left shoulder. This time he's going inside that lead hand and countering with a left hook, and his feet kind of come together. But it's a clean selection of counter nonetheless, because it's not just the right hand. Now he has the left hook too, and this is like 10 seconds into the fight. Tyson does a good job level changing, getting underneath the jab, but when he comes back up, Berbick doubles up and kind of catches him off guard, and his feet are kind of stuck in place. But Berbick is also just standing in front of Mike, so Mike answers back with a harder jab, a cleaner jab. Knocks him off balance a little bit, I think. Berbick is still probing and prodding with that lead hand, and he's doing it so slow, and so Tyson's like leaning out of the way, stepping in with a power jab. Now Berbick is already adjusting too. He sees that duck and he's trying to catch him with that uppercut, but in the process he hits Tyson in the chest, so his aim is a little bit off, and Tyson is trying to blast him, but that left hand actually kind of gets there and deflects the right hand a little bit. Even though it's not a beautiful form of defense, it did work. Tyson is a little bit more defensively successful when he has that pretty consistent preemptive defensive movement and getting his head off the center line, just as a function of coming forward. But when he comes forward and he's stationary with his head, boom, gets caught, and then he almost gets lined up with the right hand, but his arm gets in the way. Again, Tyson sees the jab. This wasn't really timing. This was just, it was so slow that he saw it coming. Slips to the outside, overhand, just barely misses, may graze his forehead a little bit, and he almost gets lined up with uppercut simultaneously. But then he falls over committing to that overhand. He's trying to knock him out, obviously, and since he kind of overcommits, he falls in, he gets caught in a bad position. Berbick lands a left hook to the neck, which obviously does nothing, and then he's trying to still line up Berbick with these. One of the things that's interesting about his style is when he's squared up like this, he can kind of partially box out of southpaw for a short period of time, where he's like throwing overhand lefts as if he were in southpaw. He can kind of change directions like that as a function of his style of footwork and the way he holds his stance. And here we're gonna kind of get a glimpse of his style, where I was talking about, I think it's one of his weakest aspects, when he's in this mode where he's jabbing just to close range and he gets pushed back a little bit. He's going to jab just to close range, and he's jabbing just to close range so he can throw his heavy-handed combos. And obviously his combos are some of the nastiest combos in history. But I think that's a weaker part of his game, when he tries to force the combo through. It's different when he has the opportunity, but when he's forcing to get the opportunity to get those combos, I think that's one of the weaker parts of his game. The counterpunching that we were seeing earlier and that we're going to see again, I think that's the much stronger part of his game. Now that the fight is slowing down relative to how it started off, and he's coming in from range, and now he's getting a little bit more creative. Level change, jab, feint to the body, and you see Berbick go to parry that, which that's not a good idea, but he uses that to kind of freeze Berbick in place, and it works. He feints, freezes him, steps in, jab to the body, and then it opens up the opportunity, literally opens up the guard for the overhand right on the ear, and that's a big problem right there. Look at his face. Yeah, he's active. You can see the difference in approach of when he's using his jab to set up big swinging knockout combos versus when he's using it to set up kind of a game plan and to read. Here he's just, the jab is lazy. It's not paired with any head movement or any footwork. He's just stepping in, jabbing, and he's stepping in, jabbing, because that approach to the jab it's in line with this approach to the fight, where he's just trying to wing big combos. And you see that these are missing. His most successful work is coming off of the counters, or coming off of feigning and setting up shots, and not just using his jab as a battering ram to open up opportunities to swing big combos. We kind of see the difference in approach here. At range, feints the jab to bring the guard to the center so he can come around with it. Damn, that left hook is nasty. They can come around with the left hook. They kind of trade jabs here, but Tyson actually gets caught with Berbick's jab, and his jab falls short. And that's, again, him trying to use that jab as a battering ram rather than him trying to use it to set up stuff. And the jab can be a battering ram, but it's about how you use it. What are you using it for? But the thing is, since Berbick is still throwing that jab, Tyson is still looking for that overhand right, and he doesn't even slip out of the way of the jab that well, but he's waiting for that lead hand to come. It does. And that's really bad, and that's also not good. And now Tyson's about to work. Now, obviously, when his jab lands, it's always going to be a battering ram, but the goal shouldn't be to just use a jab as a weapon or a battering ram. It should be to also use it as a tool for setting up stuff. Like right here, when he jabs, he's jabbing at the guard, patiently waiting for a response, basically probing, right? And he's reactive, waiting for a response. He sees it, whoop, gets underneath, and here comes the counter. Right? There's a difference between forcing the jab, stepping in, not moving your head so you can throw big combos, versus using the jab to open up your opponent so you can counter. That's a big gap in skill that he's kind of demonstrating from time to time. You see flashes of his more skillful capabilities versus the kind of stereotypical Mike that he often gets labeled as, especially towards the end of his career. Again, a difference in the intent and the usage of the jab. He knows that he's not in range to land this jab. He knows that, but he jabs, slips his head to the outside, and simultaneously loads up the right hand. That's the skill that he's capable of doing. But he became less and less capable as his career advanced. And we have a repeat of the start of the first round. The only difference is the calibrations have been set in. He's figured out the range and the timing of how he's going to get over top of that jab. And so when he sees it coming out, he does get hit by it because he doesn't really move his head all the way out of the way. But I don't think he cares at this point, because he knows that he can take this step in. You see that lead foot slide forward, and he comes over top, just blast him, just boom. And then Berbick is going to go flying in a second. There it is. Left hook on the ear. falls bad. Mike is finishing a combo right here. And again, you kind of see what I was talking about earlier, where he can jump between stances because of how squared up he fights him. So he kind of throws a lead southpaw right hook. He catches him with his wrist, but he also catches him at an angle as he's trying to escape and leave range. What's so strange about Mike Tyson fighting on the inside is that he low-key fights better on the outside than on the inside. He allows himself to get wrapped up all the time in like almost every scenario you've ever seen. And then when he does get free, like he puts his arm back into the control of Burp. I don't know what the hell he be doing sometimes when he's inside fighting, but and just not that much activity. Now he's still Mike Tyson on the inside, but yeah, like how we were identifying earlier, counter punching from the outside. That's kind of where he's at his best, and probably where he's like at his smartest. He's taking his time and he's setting up shots and not just trying to overload with combos. They break off of some inside fighting. Mike does a slight level change, throws the left, it lands right on the temple, and it gets that delayed reaction. Burbick is kind of standing up, and then he's kind of not, and then it's basically all over from there. Who knows what's next? I might do a UFC breakdown. I'm gonna do a video covering athlete aura, where I'm gonna mention a modern name, Mike Tyson, and a basketball player, and then podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah, we got some stuff to look out for. A series that I'm about to start soon. Be on the lookout. Notification bell on. I'll see y'all later.